Good afternoon and welcome to BocaLead. We're so glad you're here. We have this belief that we as a business community can make this greater community of Boca Raton in South Florida a better place to work, to play, to live, to have faith, and just to grow up. And I think we can do it. And we as businessmen and women, I think, should take the lead in helping do that. And that's what BocaLead is about. And how many are here for the first time today? Raise your hand. Welcome. We're glad you're here. We give a handout every week, and it usually has some fill-ins, but you'll notice today's handout has nothing in it. So you can put on it anything you want. But today, we're going to look at clarity, leading with clarity. And so all the notes that I have today that are going to be on this screen are at BocaLead.com/clarity. So we've got so many words we're going to say, and you go, I just can't write it all down. Just go there afterwards, and everything that I have will be on that, the whole PowerPoint. But I didn't want you to lose and get caught up in the words and miss the concepts. So what I like is when you leave here with one or two things. I'm going to actually give you 6 things, but I only want you to walk out with 1 or 2 big picture things that will help you. So if you like it all and you don't want to write, just write these 6 things down and maybe take some notes on that, and you have this to do that with. Clarity is important. Now, what is the definition of clarity? So I want to kind of give it in the business context. Clarity is this. It's the ability to clearly lead people on an agreed upon journey. It's the ability to clearly lead people on an agreed upon journey. There's a lot of ways to talk about clarity, and you can talk about clarity from different perspectives. We do it from a business perspective. So today, the 6 things I talk about are from business, but every one of them is applicable to you personally. So it's personal. It could be you and your spouse. It could be you and your small business group. It could be the larger company you're in. But think of these things as we come about. And you go, well, I know what clarity is. I'm good at clarity, and I am too. But let me tell you a story. As you know, and thank you for thinking about me and some of you who prayed for us, Elizabeth and I went to Lebanon to work with the Syrian refugees this past month. We just got back, spent a couple weeks over there. Some great things are happening. Some terrible things are happening in Lebanon, but there's some good things that just don't make TV that are happening in that country, and we're excited to be a part of it. But we're a part of an organization that we started here in Boca called EEleaders, which is BocaLead on steroids. We work with 125 partners in 35 countries around the world and travel to them and lead them in a 3-year journey of growing in their leadership and in other areas as well. They're all nationals. They're not Americans. They're all from the countries in which we meet. So we met with our North African and Middle Eastern group, our people from Russia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. They were all there as well 2 weeks ago. So it's an amazing time. So I get clarity. I love clarity. So we usually go to Africa in the summer because it's winter in the summer down there, so it's a little cooler. And afterwards, or when we're there, to get around, I always hire a driver. I never drive in other countries. I've just learned a long time ago, I mean, not Canada, but other countries, I just don't drive. So I hire a driver usually for the week. Well, last year, Elizabeth and I and one of our daughters were coming back from Africa, and we decided to take an extended time in England. Usually we take the trains and Uber around, but I wanted to go to Wales and these places, so I thought, can't hire a driver in England. That's way too expensive, so I'm going to rent a car. And I'm going to drive left side, the whole thing. So I thought, I clearly understand the issues here. So while I was here, I'm a planner, so I went to my rental car company that I have the points on, and they're the same ones at Heathrow. I figured out the exact same thing. I did everything, did it all. I even rented a car that I'm used to, except it's on the wrong side of the steering column, but I rented my car over there, so everything was good. We had this incredible experience. Rented the car, drove all through southern England, into Wales, incredible time. Came back, My next door neighbor watches our house while we're gone, great neighbor, and he's also my insurance guy for cars, my auto insurance. So he said, Bill, how was the trip? I said, it was fantastic, Tom. In fact, we rented a car, and I did just what you told me, which is when I rent a car, my insurance covers the insurance. I never take the insurance of, that costs quadruple, because my insurance covers the insurance. And I said, and I did that. I didn't take the insurance. And he looked at me, he goes, did you have a problem? I go, no, a week there, got out. He goes, your insurance is not covered in England. It's US, Canada, and 10 miles into Mexico. That's it. I said, you never told me. And he said, you never told me you were going to drive in these other countries. You always say you rent, you hire drivers. I was so clear on where we were going, and the reality was I didn't have a clue. And God forbid, and I say that with respect, if we had gotten in an accident, I'd still be over there. The expensive court system they have there. I thought I was good. We think we're clear on everything, don't we? The reality is maybe not. So I brought a little thing with me, prop. A ladder. A ladder. These things are great. They help you do things. I was with Habitat for Humanity 2 weeks ago. We did the CEO build, and when you get invited to do the CEO build next year, you do it. It is fantastic. About 60 of us guys who used to be good with our hammers and nails and not so good now got together with about 30 people who were good, and we were helping build the house. And I'm climbing up and down ladders, which my wife told me never to do now. But here's the thing with a ladder. There's different parts to the ladder, and if you want to get to the fruit at the top of the tree, if you want to get to the trusses to set them correctly, you have to climb a ladder. You can stay on the ground to do certain things, but there's times to climb a ladder. And in business, this is a metaphor, you have to climb a ladder. There are things you have to do, and there's really 3 parts to a ladder. The lower part is what you want to make sure that it is stable. You stabilize it because why? We live in a city that's nothing but sand, so you have to make sure it's stable. The mid part is where you do most of your work. You climb up 3 or 4 steps, and that's where you're doing. You're painting the walls, you're fixing the lights, you're doing everything here. But every so often you climb to the top. Why? Because you're stretching to find the fruit or get that last piece of paint up or get that last tile on the roof or whatever you're climbing for. You do have to use these. It's the most dangerous part of being on a ladder, but you have to do it. The key is it only works if the bottom is stable. So all 3 parts are important. We're going to look at all 3 parts. 2 down here, 2 in the middle, and 2 at the top. Now you have the 2 rails that are important as well. As you climb up the ladder, whether it's a single ladder or an A-frame ladder like this, you hold on to the rails, and it's important. Today I want you to think of the rails as this: your personal life and your corporate life. Can you do that? Because these apply to both your personal life and your corporate life. So everything I say corporately applies to you personally. Everything I say personally applies corporately. And this little model that I'm doing, Elizabeth and I do about every 5 years. And we just did it this past summer. And we're actually still in the process of working through these 6 things in our life as I hit 60 this year. And I go, it's time to reassess and relook to see if my ladder is facing in the right direction. Because the worst thing you can do is be up here and you're about 5 feet away from the fruit you want to get. And you can't get it. And you extend and you push and you still can't get it, right? Which means you got to come down and you got to move the ladder and do it over again. So let's look at those 6 things today. Can we do that? And this whole thing is called alignment. We're going to align our thinking to clarity today. Alignment is taking these 6 things and they will bring stability to you, if you're looking at it yourself personally, or to your organization as you seek to lead it in the direction that you have set. Can we do that? Pretty simple. Let's look at number 1. We're going to start at the bottom. The first 2, then the second 2, then the third 2. The first one is this: identity. Identity. It is so important for you to understand, if it's yourself personally, who you are, why you exist, what motivates you, what are your purposes, what are your passions, what is your calling, what is your giftedness, how you live your life. If it's your company or your team, ask the same questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? We get caught up thinking that past performance is clarity, that tradition is clarity. Now, past performance is important. Tradition, I come from a long tradition, so traditions are very important as well. But as you look to the future, you have to understand your identity, and it's not easy. This church is called Boca Raton Community Church. It used to have another name. Does anybody know it? Bibletown. It has not been called Bibletown for 29 years. And all of you knew the name of it. And people go, oh, that's a Bibletown. I go, no, it's not. Bibletown died 29 years ago. Identity is important, but identity is very difficult to change. It is hard to move this ladder. I mean, it takes 2 people because our identity is stuck. But don't get so stuck in your identity. When I went away to college, before I went away to college, I had a name that I no longer have. It was Billy. Billy Mitchell. There's nothing wrong with Billy. There's nothing wrong with Billy. But when you're 6'6", Billy just doesn't work anymore. And I changed my identity in one day because I moved. I went away to college and I changed my luggage tags, I changed my name tag, that name, and the only people that call me Billy are people that knew me before I was 18 years old. I've changed my identity. Identity is so important. What is your passion? When you think of your company, are we really doing what we're setting out to do? Do we even know what we're setting out to do, or are we just doing what we did last year? Is past performance making us do the future? And I would venture to say your identity is so important. And the beautiful thing here in South Florida is everything's so new. You can change your identity and you can move about. It's so unbelievable. Everybody thinks it's so great that I'm the 4th generation here. It's like, you go to England, their garages are older than our country. So it's like, I don't get it. And anyway, number 2, direction. Now, I use the word direction because I'm kind of tired with all these words that everybody categorizes: vision, mission, strategic plan, objectives. Every company has a different word they use. I just go, what direction are you heading in? Tell me the direction. You see this, I just changed the direction of this, so we're now over here. I'm changing the direction of this. I'm doing it because I have a vision of changing these lights over versus those lights. I have a mission to do it. You can do all those internal names, but what is it? Where are you heading? What are your values? What is your strategy to get there? Now, all of us know this in business, and it's the end of the year, so many of you are going through that process of strategic planning for next year. But do you do this personally? Do you ever ask yourself, where am I heading? What is my vision for my life? What are the values that infuse what I do that put stability on what I do? Johnny just mentioned a couple. Is a forgiving spirit one of those values? Is get all the money you can one of those values? Is anger one of those values? Is bitterness one of those values? Is entitlement one of those values? Or is love, compassion, care, realizing you've been given more than you need and you can give some of that away? Those are values as well. And then taking that and inspiring other people, motivating other people. If you're in a company, you got to motivate them yourself. You got to motivate your children. You got to motivate your teams. You got to motivate your nonprofits. That's what you do. And when you get your identity established and your direction held, the ladder is secure and it's ready to start work. whether it's the ladder of your life or the ladder of your team or the ladder of your company. And in the middle of this are two very important steps. Number one, or the third one in this, and I've just put a simple word because everybody has their own word in their own language and in their own companies and their own lanes that you run your businesses by. I put operations. You can call it whatever you want. How are we going to get where we want to go? It's very important, and two things are important here. One is, and this is for the personal side, daily disciplines. Daily disciplines. I bet you if I were to ask you right now to write down what you did this morning, don't do it, you could tell me exactly from the minute you woke up to the minute you got to work, you could tell me what you did. If I asked you, tell me what you had for lunch yesterday or the day before, you'd have to think through it. Why? Because the daily disciplines of the morning, that 6 in the morning till 8:30 or whenever you go to work or whatever your little time is so disciplined, isn't it? Don't you do the same thing? Don't you eat the same things? Don't you have the same regiment? Those of you that spend quiet times, those of you that run, you do it all, might be 3 days a week this way and 3 days a week that way, but it's disciplined. And then all of a sudden we get to work and our disciplines die out. And I would just suggest that those disciplines, not the ones that you wake up with, but new disciplines become a part of your life. And if they do, the things that you can accomplish are unlimited. The people who have some discipline, and by the way, the Greek word for discipline comes from the word we get gymnasium from. It's working out what you do. If you are a person of discipline, you are a person who works out what you do. Not physically like a workout, but in your business. And then, as we take it into the business, the systems and processes. This is huge because most of us do repetitive work at business. Those of you who are in real estate, the goal is to do more sales. You do 10, you do 15, you want to do 20, you want to do 30. You got to have a system that allows you to do more. Those of you every business has this. I have educators here. You want to add 100 students to you got to have a system to do it. I've got nonprofits here. You want to build more houses. You want to have more foster kids. You want to help more poor in Haiti. You got to have a system to do it. And they do have systems. But we as business people sometimes wake up and go, what am I going to do today? How am I going to achieve this direction and develop some systems? But personally, develop them as well. On this personal side, it's so important. Why? Because so many people climb a ladder at work, and then they come running down the ladder, and then they go climb a ladder for home. And they come running down, and then they go climb a ladder on Saturdays or Sundays or Friday nights when they go to worship, and they climb down the ladder. Then they go to their nonprofit, and they climb down the ladder. Wouldn't it be good if it was just one ladder? Wouldn't it be good that you could live in such a consistent way that at work, at play, at your faith, how you raise your children, it's the same values? As opposed to cutthroat value here, love my daughter there, I want to screw people here, I want to love my spouse there. You're running up and down ladders all day long, and that's when you trip, and that's when you fall. And can I say where most problems occur on a ladder? Right here. You fall off the last one. You think you're on the last rung and you fall off. And has anybody fallen off a ladder here? Last rung most of the time. Oh, I twisted my ankle. I wrenched my knee. Be careful. I would say the consistency of your disciplines. We tell our children, serve, love. And then at work, we do a whole different thing. I'd say, make it consistent. Some of those values. Now, you do it in different ways, obviously, but the values stay there. Let's go on. The second part of this middle are people. People. Do you have the right people in place? Best book on this, of course, is Good to Great by Jim Collins. You've all read it. You all know it. It's important that you have the right people in place, but are they trained? So if it's about you, the question is, are you in the right place? Are you in the right position you need to be in? Are you trained for it? Those of you that are younger in this room, and we have probably about 25% of you are newer in business. Are you in the right place? Have you gotten the training? Those of you who lead people, how are you training them well? And then are your teams effective? Everything we talk about is teamwork, 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 and then it's really not teamwork. It's really a group of people all doing different things, reporting to one person. That's a work group. If you're all working towards reporting to one person, it's a work group. A team is where they're all interacting with each other for the greater good of the organization. That's why Elizabeth and I are big on family. I believe families can do much more together than we as individuals do separately. Your children, some of you have grandchildren, the things you infuse in their life is incredible. Why do we want foster kids? I mean, kids who have no parents in a home. It's right here. We want to infuse values and love and all the things that you and I have for those who don't have. I mean, it's just a simple thing. And yet, we don't get it, do we? It's interesting. And then the last two. Engagement. You can put whatever word you want around that. Are we reaching our audience? That's the customers, the focus on it. And right in the middle is the word communication. Now you've heard me, if those have been with me a long time know that communication to me is the most important thing. And if you want to trip on a ladder most, it's with communication or miscommunication. We think we communicate well with people because we speak the same language. That is so far from the truth. And I've shared how my wife of 36 years and I laugh about that. We couldn't get go and no together. I won't even share that story. It's just so. I was a senior in college, and I got invited. I worked in several minority areas of Chicago. Chicago's a great microcosm of about 40 different cultures. And so I worked in several of them. I happened to be working, I was 20 years old. I'm working in the Polish section and having a great time working with children and doing this thing. And it was unbelievable. I'm not a Pole. I didn't understand the Polish. It was fantastic. Their foods are great. Their culture's great. We're doing these things. And so on Sundays, I would go and do a children's group with these kids and had the time of my life. And I'm learning culture. And I did it in the African American community. I did it in the Romanian communities, different times of my time there. So I'm with and one of the leaders said, Bill, we want you to come to dinner next week on Sunday. I said, wow, now I can get into a Polish home, not just into their community center and have real Polish food. It was great. I said, great, dinner on Sunday. So I leave, and like a lot of people, they don't tell you the time. Like my wife's family. They would say, you want to come to dinner? They never tell you the time. You just come at dinner time. And my mom would say, come at 6 o'clock on Thursday to dinner. And if you're there at 6:15, you've missed the first course. Some cultures aren't that way, so I figured this culture just said, come at dinner. So I'm thinking dinner. I eat dinner at 6, but most people eat dinner at 7. I'm going to get there at 6. So just in case they eat an early dinner. I get there at 6. Knock on the door of this little home on the row houses in northwest Chicago, just west of Wrigleyville, and I'm on Pulaski Street, and I'm knocking on the door, and the guy opens up and goes, what are you doing here? I go, you said let's have dinner next Sunday. It's next Sunday. He goes, dinner is at noon. I go, what? He goes, dinner is at noon. I go, that's lunch. He goes, no, lunch is Monday through Friday at noon. Dinner is at noon on Sunday, and supper is at 7 o'clock. I missed by 6 hours this event. We knew the language. I spoke the language. I know what dinner is. You know what dinner is. My dinner's at 6, his dinner's at noon. We miscommunicated totally. I thought I was clear in receiving it. He thought he was clear in giving it. Please understand, clarity does not happen by words, by accident. You have to communicate effectively, or it will be miscommunicated and misunderstood. Now, we live in Boca, which has, how many? Our church has 40 different first-generation cultures in it. 40 different first generation. Now, I got to stand up in front of 40 different cultures and communicate something. It's tough. In your business, you might have 2 or 3 cultures, or 5 or 6. In our marriage, we have 2 cultures. And actually more than 2, because she grew up Lebanese, Jamaican. That's 2 very different cultures. So we had 3 cultures, we're trying to communicate with. So learn it well. Identity, direction, operation, people, engagement, and the final one is this, influence. Influence. We believe leadership is influence. Are we doing what we set out to do? Ultimately, all this planning down here, who are we? Why do we exist? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? What are the operations? Who are the people that are going to take us? Are we working with our customers well? All ends up when we get to the top of the ladder, when we're trying to reach out. Are we doing what we set out to do? How's our reputation? Those of you who are new here, how many are here 10 years or less in Boca? Raise your hand. 10 years or less. Raise them. It's okay. Okay, so you don't know this, but Boca has been known for years. We had Kozlowski and Tyco. We had Sullivan and MCI WorldCom. We had the penny stocks. What was the other one? I'm missing one. Oh, we had Al Dunlop and Scott Paper, right? And I'm just naming the big ones that made it on CNN. We are known for having the wrong influence over the years in the business community. It is time for that to change. And I think you all and us can do it. Reputation is huge. We have a reputation that precedes us, but can I say past performance does not determine future. You and I need to look to the future, not to the past. Let's look to the future. You and I live in the best place in the world. I can say it. Many of you have been there too, but I've been in almost 100 countries. There is no place like Boca Raton in the world. None. When you go around the world and you say new, they don't say York. When you say Lost, they don't say Angeles. When you say San, they don't say Frisco. You say Boca, they say Raton. Everywhere in the world. It is the most unique place in the world. It is unbelievable. But you can't lose the opportunity. It's unbelievable. Integrity, the ability to educate. Now we're going to close, and I want to share something with you. Another illustration. I love things. I have a bowl of apples. It's apple season. When we came back from Lebanon, we stopped through Chicago to spend a day in the fall and went to an apple orchard and picked apples and just had the time of our life, which we never get to do because we are down here picking strawberries. And so here's some apples. Let's pretend there are 300 apples in my hand. Just apples everywhere. I have so many apples. And you people are in need. You need to eat. You need things. And so what do? David, catch. Oh, sorry, David. Here, I'll go shorter here, a little softer here. Marla, there you go. What am I doing? I'm giving away my apples. Here you go. Here you go. There. I'm giving away the apples because these people are in need of something. It's not apples. They're in need of something. They're in need of a currency of generosity. It's not always money. There's other things. But yet, I have hundreds of apples left. I have given out of my abundance. I have a lot, but I've given. And a lot of people say, oh, they give a lot of money, but they have a lot of money. You know what? That's okay. Because there's a lot of people who have a lot of things and don't give anything. But if you have, I still got plenty for my family, I got plenty for my friends, I got plenty for my close associates, I got plenty for my neighbors, but I need to give away out of my abundance. Now that's easy, and you should do it. You can call it philanthropy, you can call it charity, I call it generosity, and the reason I use that word generosity is because the word gener means to produce. A generator, generations, you're producing something. I believe when you give to something, when Habitat builds a house, they are not giving philanthropy. They are not giving charity. They're giving generosity because they are producing something. When these people and those people over there and all of you who give are giving, you should give to produce something. Not just to give away an apple, give away $1, give away a home. No, you're there to produce something. Now, I put these away because now I'm another person, and all I have in my life are 2 apples. I'm smaller, but I believe all of us have gifts. And you go, I don't have hundreds of apples. I don't have excess. But you really do. Every one of us has more than we need. Because we think currency is only money. But currency comes when I give love out, when I give appreciation out. It's November 1st, it's Thanksgiving. When I give gratitude out, I haven't lost my gratitude. I've given it out and I still have as much left, and many times even more left than I gave away. And I would encourage you, my friends and business associates in Boca Raton and Palm Beach County, let's be known as givers of generosity. Let's put our ladders in a direction that, yes, helps my family, absolutely. Helps my company succeed, absolutely. But maybe a third rung to this, the backside that balances this, could be a sense of a generous spirit. And if we do this, I believe we'll have a better place to work, play, raise our families, and have faith and worship than any place in the world. Thank you.